Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it to. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and I'm doing it with you today in another of the 3 times lucky videos. This is a series of videos where I will be basically doing 3 legit games in the tank. Just load it up, run 3 games, and have a crack. And I actually had this footage for a little bit because I wanted to do this tank. This is the T32. This is the American Tier 8 heavy tank, and it's a tank that I loved first time out, and it seems to be a bit of a theme at the moment. I'm going back through some of the tanks which haven't been looked at for a very, very long time and touching them up and talking about them in the current meta. Now, as always, if you want to become a sponsor of the channel, become a patron, there is a link there. It's hugely beneficial to me. It is how I make a living. I do a video every day. We have patron-only podcasts, patron-only this, patron-only that. All well and good. Back to the T32. The T32 is still a really good tank, and a lot of people will dispute this with me, and I want to say something particularly about the current meta. This tank has more armor than you expect. Now, everyone knows that it has one of the best turrets in the entire game, and that's not talking out of school. The turret is legitimately incredible. Has up to 560 millimeters of armor and 651 millimeters of armor, and even its worst points is still mid to high 2s. And that's a lot of turret. But what people forget is it is not just a turret. The upper glacis on this tank is very, very strong. Its raw numbers are about a 185, 190 millimeters of pen required to get through the upper glacis. So if you angle this thing up, you can easily get it up to 200 millimeters of frontal armor on the upper glacis. And if you're hull down and using the 10 degrees of gun depression, you can easily get this up to 250, 260 millimeters of pen and still be pointing your gun directly at the enemy. So that is in fact a pretty significant amount of armor at a tier where you find a lot of tanks like that T44 running around with sub 200 millimeters of armor on their AP. And what that means is that if they go to premium ammunition to pen your armor, they are going to go to premium ammunition and do a lot less damage. And that means you can soak up a lot of hits, and you can put yourself in a position to be successful with the tank, and you can go hull down and do all kinds of nasty things to the red guys, which is great. And you can use the gun depression there and get up, and you can see, there you go, that's a 240 bounce. Now 240 is the damage that T54 Mod 1 does with its premium ammunition. So he's had to switch to Premo, and he's still bounced because the Mod 1 and the T44 and the T54 lightweight, the Type 59, and all these tanks that base off that variant have a 100mm gun with very, very average penetration numbers on the standard AP. And even on the APCR, it's not really killing it. So you get the opportunity to bounce shots like that if you can get it out there and do the right kind of thing with it. Now, why I think this tank is doing well these days is that it's completely overlooked. Not a lot of people drive it, and there is a reason at Tier 8 because there are so many good heavy tanks. The AMX 5100, the IS-6, the IS-3 Defender, the IS-3 itself, the IS-5, the IS variants, the IS-2SH, the bloody T-34 is a good heavy tank. And that's got a great turret, but this turret poos all over it. The Tiger 2 is a tough tank to drive, but still you've got Lurvers and Carnarvons and KV4s and KV5s. So you come up to a tank like this and you're spoilt for choice. And a lot of people skip through it or don't think it's that crash hot because it's a little bit different and it's a little bit slower than some like, but I mean, the numbers are good. The dispersion's rubbish, the gun's bad, but there's a lot of bad guns at this tier. I mean, your IS-6 variants with your .389 dispersions, that you're a little bit better than that, and you've got 10 degrees of gun depression. Your speed, your 35 kilometers an hour top speed isn't amazing, and obviously it's a bit sluggish in the things because you've only got 25 degrees of traverse, but that's right up there with T34s and IS-6s and all these kind of tanks. So I think people sell this tank tremendously short. It is, for lack of a better word, competitive in just about every single part of the game at this tier as a heavy tank. It's It's got great great armor. It really does. It's got great armor, and that's not any way, shape, or form an exaggeration. The armor is great from head to toe. Your lower glacis is weak, but you know that's pretty much the case in every tank apart from say an AMX 50B in the game. Where it struggles is gun handling is a bit average. Your dispersion is pretty crap, and really the big issue that it has, its penetration is very poor. Sub 200 pen on your AP rounds, and 245mm of pen on your, you know, your big nuts, your APCR. 310 alpha means that you don't have the same alpha strike as well, which can make it a really easy pick for a lot of people that love those 120mm guns that the IS-6 and everyone else rock out with. But I mean, you can see me getting around the playing field here. I'm moving pretty quickly, and look, I'm now hull down, which means it's a very, very tough tank to pen hull down. Like, that's a big HE shell there. That's the only reason anything went in there, and we bounced another shot on the front of the tank. 407 HE round into the side of the 49.8, and here comes the big problem. IS-3 Defender, 3 shots, lots of 400 alphas, and we run out of tanks. I mean, it's still done fairly well. I mean, it did do well. It pumped out damage, it bounced some shots, it pushed the line, it went well. And we're 1-on-1 and 2 games in, and we're doing damage. And I don't know why this tank has a bad rap. I mean, it's not sexy. There's no doubt about it. It's very, very, very workmanlike. It's almost Soviet in its appearance. It's not a pretty tank. It doesn't fly. It's not a tank that you expect to see. Oh God, please finish this event already. Please make it stop. I've just absolutely had enough of T49As. I can no longer stomach them. And that Defender again is going to waltz up with his multiple rounds, and his last round is going to finish off Mr. Freeze in the T49A. And it's not sexy like a Defender. It doesn't have an autoloader. It's not got that plug and play armor profile like a IS-6 or an IS-3 or something, but it's still really, really strong. And there you go, 2800 again, that 310 alpha cannon that just keeps spitting damage. Its turret is good enough when up tiered. It's more than good enough when up tiered to go hull down. It lacks, if I was honest, the only thing that I really struggle with in this tank is that alpha strike. The alpha strike it's 90 hit points difference between this and most of your IS series tanks and your T34 tanks. And despite the fact that it's competitive in the DPM stakes, that alpha strike is a legitimate loss when you're playing it as a peekaboo tank. Quite simply, 400 alpha is very hurtful to tanks like, for instance, at T49 ahead of us. He's got 1200 hit points. We hit him for 300. That is, that's a quarter of his hit points. That IS-3 Defender hits him for 400. That's a third of his hit points. And in a game where you don't always get to have a lot of time on target, peekaboo tanks can stay competitive even with low DPM numbers because they're capable of ducking out, booming, and then pulling back in. And that's all well and good. And that is actually something that we really enjoy and really love in our peekaboo tanks. But what this tank does well is go hull down. And you can see here, straight away, we are hull down. We pull back, and we don't have to worry too much with this turret because anyone wants to push at me. There we go. The most they're going to do is just, HE me, and that's all there is to it. Like that's a good thing for me. And this 49 is a 49, so he's going to push. Just you're going to love that. And that's that turret working again, making things very, very tough for the enemy. We've taken a shot, we've taken a big HE round, but we've put a couple of shots in, and we're controlling the middle of the map. And that gun depression is going to work for us in just a second on this T71. We switch up to the HE, 377, thank you very much, back it up, looking at the rest of the map, seeing where it's all happening. And it's mobile enough, it gets out there quickly enough to actually stay in touch with the fight and to do good things. There's a very nicely armoured tank. The IS-5, we get the lower glacis, so I mean, as long as you can see a lower glacis, you can get a shot in. Switch to APCR, because he's a very, very tough pen, and we get the kill. And again, that turret, very, very tough. allows us to angle up, be a very difficult customer. We're moving around, looking to engage the rest of the tanks. There's the RU-251. Just going to put one into him, hold back, and there's hull down spots all over the place here. And we're making the very, very best use of them that we possibly can. The IS-6, nice shot to the side. You note that I'm always angling this tank up. I'm treating it like it's an Object 140 or it's a T-54 Mod 1 or it's one of those Russian tanks, because it really has a lot more going for it on the upper glacis than people give it credit for. And when you're up tiered and you're a tier 8 tank and you're fighting against tier 7 tanks or low pen Russian mediums, you can make them work for their shots and work for their damage and actually take a lot of time off the clock and equalize the damage output. It's been really, really good fun driving this tank again. Everything old is new again for me at the moment. I went back and redrove a couple of tanks. Obviously, the Type 61 needed another review. The M46 Patton needed another review. The IS-3 needed another review. And despite all the new tanks in game, a lot of the old things that had something, a really good characteristic to hang their hat on, like the T32 has a really good turret. They were able to still do very, very well in the current environment. And that's a bit of a testament, I guess, to good game design. The fact that they've managed to output a whole lot of new stuff without actually ruining a lot of the old tanks is pretty bloody cool. There you go. That's the T32. 3 times lucky, 3 times a charm, 3 times a winner. And that is a T49 sacrificing himself at the altar of justice, Yankee Doodle Dandy style. 3,390. So again, another good game, another competitive game. You can see we tried out the Rebel first and then we switched straight up to the T32 looking to do this video, and we were very, very happy straight out of the gate. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Look after yourselves, look after your families, and as always, stay safe on the battlefield.